Surely the Mets would win on my 22nd birthday. As you can see, the Mets ended up losing 4-3 in a tight matchup in game one of 3 games against the LA Dodgers at home. You want to hear Timmy Trumpet tonight. Unfortunately, we couldn't, as the Mets just could not produce enough when it mattered most with runners in scoring position. Joey Rodriguez went back to his more inconsistent ways that we've seen, this entire season. Michael Givens with the best outing of his career thus far in a Mets uniform. Still, the Mets were not able to get it done, even as the Dodgers left 11 on base. How's it going, everybody? Appreciate you all chiming in. In hindsight, I'm glad I did not attend tonight's game. Was debating for a while. Be my birthday and all, I decided not to. I first want to thank everyone so much for the birthday wishes that I see here in the live chat. People in the comments down below on replay. People on the community tab. I'm going to try to get back to all you guys as soon as I can, hopefully by sometime tomorrow, and the hundreds of people on Twitter. Seriously, thank you guys all so much. It means the world. I had a great day. Unfortunately, it wasn't as good as what I was hoping with a Mets W, but hey, that's the nature of baseball. I'm definitely not happy after a tough loss like this against a Dodgers team that, again, has had a tough stretch of games lately, did not have an off day the way that the Mets did entering this one, and the Mets just could not get the job done once again. Color me surprised with this offense, and unfortunately, as much as it frustrates me to say, with guys like Pete Alonso, just a terrible game for Pete that we've seen. It feels more often than not with his inconsistencies these past 2.5 to 3 weeks now. It's been very Jekyll and Hyde with Pete. And you see even Eddie Escobar with 2 singles tonight. But no, the Mets still could not get the job done, guys. I got a lot to say about this game. Thank you all so much for chiming in. I greatly appreciate it. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, folks. Help us get to 100 likes for our first short-term goal. And guys, we got a lot to get into. I have a lot of deep dive. I got my plethora of notes, as I always do when doing post-game coverage. Win or lose, we're covering every single game of the series against the Dodgers. The big bad Dodgers leading the league with 89 wins. Entering tonight's game, both teams with an MLB's best 30-10 in first games of the series. Now Mets are 30-11 and the Dodgers are 31-10. Guys, yeah, I got a lot to say about this one. Really would have liked it to be a nice birthday gift, but again, I'm very grateful for all the kind words and all you guys for the support, especially here on my 22nd. But let's get into this one, guys. I do see a donation. I'll address quick, then we'll get into it. Again, I'm not going to go screaming. I might scream my head off a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I did have a Red Bull, as I always do before the shows, to make sure that I'm amped up and ready to go. But let's get into a donation that I saw, and then we will go deep dive the show. And then after I break down all the nitty and gritty, what went right and what truly went wrong for the Mets in this 4-3 loss, I will then, after that, I will deep dive all your questions, folks, as I'll cut things off around there for people on replay. If YouTube is actually competent and cuts things through YouTube Studio within, I don't know, a 12-hour span, if they can't do that, wouldn't surprise me. But regardless, Tremont, thank you so much for a $2 donation. Tremont says, I want Lux drill. He's the reason we lost. Tremont, Lux is not the reason why the Mets lost. The Dodgers left 11 on base. So when you have Joey Rodriguez, who, surprise, surprise, can't get lefties out, and Pete Alonso swinging through the top of the zone 3 times tonight, especially with runners in scoring position, those are your factors in a loss. So miss me with that bullshit on wanting a player drilled. This is 2022, not 1922, okay? It's not going to happen now. I know you might be frustrated, but again, the Mets lost this game because they cannot produce enough when it mattered most, and the bullpen staying inconsistent with guys that you should be relying on, and yet the Mets not doing enough at the trade deadline, bullpen-wise especially, is continuing to come back to haunt them, and James McCann, more like James McCann. A lot of takeaways from this game. Thank you so much for the dono, no less, Tremont. Greatly appreciate that, and thank you guys once more for the happy birthday wishes. Appreciate that, Hog. Appreciate you, my man, Ballcap. Of course, let's see Ballcap Sports. What's it going, brother? Guys, make sure to check out both Hog for the Padres and make sure to check out Jim at Ballcap Sports for all things baseball coverage. But enough of me. I got to break down this game. I'm pissed off about it. Again, this is a game where honestly, it was a toss-up if the Mets were win or lose. It stings that much more when this was a game that was surely within reach. And you have Jake Reed, the man that the Mets cut earlier this year, who is not good, and we ground into a double play. Daniel Vogelback, I love you, Vogie. You need to be taking pitches there. You don't. You ground into the double play when you have a runner on with no out. And unfortunately, Brendan Nimmo, after a nice, strong couple first at-bats, cannot get it going in his final 2 or 3, and that led to the Mets' loss. All factors in it, guys. But let's get into it. I'm pissed. I am pissed because, again, the Mets will be lucky, in part, to win this series against the Dodgers because, one, you're facing 3 southpaws this entire series. Tonight, Andrew Heaney, who drove me absolutely nuts because, again, the Dodgers have changed up this guy's game in his arsenal a little bit, tweaked it. He's going fastball high and back foot slider down and in. And these Mets hitters, the righties, a lot of them look silly. Again, the Mets got some nice hits. Heaney wasn't, the best thing in the world. He wasn't terrible. But this was a game, again, where you need your guys to step up, and they simply did enough. I love you, Marquette. I love you, Starling Marte. These are guys that have been consistent. Lindor got on base 3 times. Nice. But the man you need most in the heart of the order for the Mets and Pete Alonso. I need more from you, Pete. I need more. Okay, down the stretch, this is what we need. This was a game that was in reach for this Mets team, and they let it blow past them. And they will be lucky at this juncture to win the series. You got Jacob deGrom, who hopefully he shoves tomorrow. Everyone will expect him to, even against the big bad Dodgers. Facing off against Tyler Anderson, who really shoved well against the Mets last time they faced in June back in LA. And then, you got Clayton Kershaw in the series finale. Looks like Dustin May at first. No, they're going with the vet and Clayton. Again, a matchup where I just don't know how to feel because this Mets team against Southpaws has not been consistent. And that has been the story of this entire game for them, guys. So, time to deep dive this one for the 5th time he's saying this. Nimmo with a single in the first, right? Starling Marte with the flukiest play known to man. He puts down a perfect opposite field bunt down the first baseline that stays fair, just 3 feet off of making that swing. Andrew Heaney tries with a little backhand toss, can't get Freddie Freeman. It goes fairly deep in a right. Mookie Betts is not able to get there in time. Brandon Nimmo somehow, someway scores from first all the way home. Marte pulls a 3-foot bunt into a triple, and the Mets already have a runner on third after up 1-0 with no outs, and they would do nothing with that. That's where you could already see that, yes, not taking enough of advantage early against a Dodgers team that is surely going to come out swinging when they need to most, even when they didn't have their best stuff tonight, that they would get the job done, and that held true. You saw Lindor with a hit by pitch, right, on the back foot slider. Lindor would then be out trying to steal second base, and that stolen base attempt was not pretty at all. He was out by a mile. Now, granted, it would have made more sense if he was trying to steal second, if you had the runner going home, that being a Marte, but Marte couldn't do it. It was still a little shallow. The throw was perfect by Barnes, the catcher for the Dodgers, to second base for LA. And just like that, there's already a runner out when you had guys on the corners, no outs. Okay. Then you see there in the first guys, Darren Ruff with a K would end the inning. Darren Ruff's first hit of the night that would get into later snapping his skid would be against a righty, no less. So I don't know how much these platoons mean anything. If you know something about Darren Ruff, guys, it's been a struggle for him off the bench in a limited role being an everyday player. But what I do know is, as well, is that while Ruff matches up nice against lefties, he matches up far greater against lefties out of the bullpen than he does starters. And that was something that was on full display as Andrew Heaney had himself a solid day, even though he gave up some base knocks and some runs. Then you get to the second, Jeff McNeil with an infield single, nothing there. This was after, of course, Taijuan Walker with 2 scoreless innings. And then you saw Brett Beatty. It was just reported actually by Anthony DeComo, folks, that he was unavailable tonight with a minor thumb injury suffered over the weekend. So he wasn't an option as a pinch hitter. And here's the thing. Eddie swung the bat when the Mets needed to, which was awesome today. We'll see if Beatty starts at least one of these 3 games because, again, Mets are going to plan a platoon Escobar versus righties more. However, Eddie has not looked good against righties other than Jake Reed that we saw there in the 9th. So it'll be interesting to see how Buck goes. I don't love the lineup management right now either. I want Jeff McNeil a little bit higher. Okay, we got the spam in the chat. That's awesome. Again, Dodgers on Mets frauds. Yes, here's the thing, Dodgers fans. Talk your shit. Now's the night to do it, but I would recommend biting your tongue a little bit until at least the series is over. If you sweep us or you win 2-3, then by all means, you talk the talk. You're the best team in baseball. We know this. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out, a complete all-star lineup with a bench that's far greater than many teams in baseball currently is going to have success. Yeah, no surprise. But to say the Mets got dominated tonight, the Mets beat themselves tonight, simply put. But let's expand further, guys. Dodgers deserved to win. They were still the better team, but they didn't even have their best stuff. That's why, as a Mets fan, I'm that pissed off about this game because they had it within reach and they just could not get the job done. After a couple squirrels there, Jeff McNeil with an infield single, Mets didn't do anything. In the 3rd, this is where the Dodgers would get their bulk of their runs. Barnes with a single, and might I say, the umpire, thank you so much for being absolute dog shit. Sounds like a day that ends in Y. It hurt the Mets and benefited the Mets in this game, so I'm not going to sit here and act like a hypocrite and say, oh, the Mets had no calls going their way and everything going Dodgers. That wasn't the case. Later in the game, there were multiple calls that were going the Mets' way, but early on, it wasn't the case, and that definitely hurt Taijuan Walker a bit. Barnes with a single, Mookie Betts with a double, and then 2 outs happen. And with 2 outs, you need 1 more here in the 3rd. Get out of this unscathed. Max Muncy takes a walk because he has one of the best eyes at the plate in all of baseball. He literally swings at second fewest pitches in the zone in all baseball. He's nuts. Gallo with a hit by pitch, drives in a run with bases loaded, 2 outs. Really frustrated there for Ty, you could tell. Then Gavin Lux with a 2 RBI single. Gavin Lux was the Mets' daddy tonight. 3 RBIs for the young stud. He had a great game, and Thompson with a strikeout ended the inning. However, through 3, the Mets are down 3-1 at this juncture when they had easy potential to score at minimum at least 2 runs there in the first with Marte on third and no outs. But again, that's too much ask for a Mets team that has not been stepping up to the plate consistently with runners in scoring position. You've heard this before. I know I have. That's all I said for the entirety of the 2021 season covering this team. All right, guys, we then get to the bottom of the third. Starling Marte with an up-high fastball does what Pete Alonso wishes he could do all game, and he rips that for a no-doubt bomb, as you see in the highlights right now, to make it a 1-0 ball game. We advance to the fourth as Taijuan Walker settles down a bit, which was nice to see up until his departure. Canha with a solo bomb. Mark Canha staying the extra base god. Canha had favorable numbers against Heaney entering tonight's game, even when Heaney adjusted himself entering the season out with the Dodgers, because the Dodgers, I mean, they touch anything and turn it into gold right away. That's what they're known for. Thompson's a great example. They got him for nothing from the Padres earlier in this year, and he's been a stud in his second stint now with LA. I mean, their bullpen as well. So many guys. Evan Phillips, they picked up waivers last year from what? I think Tampa, if I'm not mistaken, whoever they picked it up from, and he has a 1.22 ERA this year. I mean, Jake Reed to come in and to get the game done in itself really blew my mind and frustrated me. But again, let's get to that as we go forward, guys. So you see there, Canha gets that solo bomb there in the fourth. Then we get to the fifth. Taijuan Walker with his first 1-2-3 inning of the game. That's great for Ty, a guy that you would think, okay, maybe he's going to stay rattled the remainder of this matchup. That would not hold true. Ty would hold his ground. However, then we get to the bottom of the fifth, guys. The Mets are trying to get some offense. Again, keyword is trying. Differences between trying and actually executing, guys. Nimmo with an Oppo base knock. He would get on base for the second time tonight at that juncture. Lindor with an Oppo single. He snaps his 0-for-20 skid. This time it was from the right side of the plate, hitting for a nice liner. Opposite field beats the shift as they had it on him. That being the Dodgers, who do it more than any other team in baseball when it comes to shifting, have for multiple years now. Pete Alonso strikes out on a high heater for the third time with runners on the corners, guys, and that would end up ending the inning. That's where I was most pissed off with Pete tonight, guys. It's just the fact that all Andrew Heaney threw to Pete Alonso this entire game was a high fastball, and almost all those pitches were out of the zone that he was swinging with. Heaney's game was to get you with the high heater for the righties, up top, out of the zone, borderline, but high enough where Pete took those pitches more 9 out of 10 times, even with this atrocious ump, it would have been called a ball. And then he got that back foot slider. Pete, who struggled mightily against lefties with back foot sliders, didn't even need to deal with that tonight because he struggled with the high heater. This is something he struggled with earlier in the year. Really clutched up on a swing, did better. Now he's back to those struggles again for a guy that has not been swinging the bat well. Overall, he's had some nice games, but few and far in between over this, 2 to 3 week stretch at minimum, guys. So the Mets leave runners on there for another time in this game. You see them in the bottom of the fifth. We then get to the sixth. You see Thompson with a double, and that is when Lugo comes in the game to relieve for Taijuan Walker. Taijuan exits tonight's game, folks. 5.1 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 Ks, 92 pitches. Not the best outing for Ty, but I appreciate the fact that he was able to settle down after that rough third and kept the Mets within this ball game. This game was not lost because of Taijuan Walker. This game was lost because of a man named Joely Rodriguez, but more than anything, an offense that I've been preaching the past 2 episodes now on Bleav in Queens, if not 3. Check out the latest episode, guys. Came out yesterday. We had, 2015 NLCS MVP for the Mets and Daniel Murphy on the pod for almost an hour. It was phenomenal talking with Murphy. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already, folks. Thank you guys all so much in advance. And we got Bleav in Queens merch. You want a schmuck shirt if you're a schmuck like me, especially after a loss like this, merch is down in the description as always at shop.bleav.com, or if you go to bleav.com/shop, either one will suffice. Either way, guys, we get to the 6th. Thompson with a double. Lugo comes in. Barnes and Betts walk. So Lugo walks 2 batters he faces after arriving in this ball game. I'm biting my tongue. I'm losing my mind. I'm very anxious as a Mets fan. Thankfully, he gets a fly out to end the inning from Trey Turner, and the Mets get out of that one unscathed and keep Taijuan Walker's season ERA now at 3.45. We advance to the bottom of the 6th. This is where one of 2 former Mets out of the bullpen for the Dodgers will be coming in. Just newly called up in Heath Hembree. Again, the Dodgers need arms. They've been throwing a lot of arms out there lately, especially from that Marlins series. It was a little bit tighter than I bet they expected. Henry comes in. Darren Ruff with his first base knock again against a righty. Snaps his 0 for 17 skid off a righty, no less, which was funny. Eduardo Escobar with his first base knock since arriving off of the IL a couple days ago for the Mets during the Rockies series. James McCann with a strikeout to end it. Oh my, you're telling me James McCann struck out tonight, and you're telling me James McCann went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Oh yeah, I would have thought. I surely would have thought. This catching position has been a hole for the Mets all year long. I wish Perez was there, but we simply don't have him right now because he had to get sent down for a roster move a couple days ago, is what it is. Then we get to the 7th. Joely Rodriguez comes into this game, and this is where I was griping, okay? Look, I understand Joely's role is supposed to be to take lefties out, but when you have Freddie Freeman, when you have Max Muncy, guys that do not swing at pitches out of the zone, they're all Brandon Nimmo-esque and locked in when Nimmo is at his peak, lefty on lefty. Joely's game is to try to get you with that off-speed down and away. Okay, you're going to tell me that this is going to be a good matchup? Of course it isn't. Freddie Freeman gets himself a double to start off the inning, and that would hurt the Mets. Then you see Will Smith intentionally walked for his first at-bat of the night, would come in DH for Joey Gallo. Then Gavin Lux, the man of the hour, the man of the game for the Dodgers, with an RBI single, makes it a 4-3 ball game. Joely exits the game doing absolutely nothing with what the Mets needed, which was, of course, to get those damn lefties out. Again, I know I'm asking for too much here. Thompson would, of course, get himself a walk after Tommy Hunter comes in. Tommy's back off the IL, which is nice. And then 2 outs ends it. Tommy Hunter with a nice outing for the Mets, as was Seth Lugo. Lugo's wasn't the prettiest with a couple walks, and Tommy had a walk, but it was nice to see the bullpen at least getting these key outs against these key Dodger hitters. We advance to the bottom of the 7th, everybody. Francisco Lindor with a walk. Pete Alonso with a flyout ends the effing inning. And again, that was the 4th time, I should say, that Alonso was out without recording a base hit. He snapped his bat. That's why it's in my highlight here. And I want to really emphasize that because I think that's a good example of Pete Alonso's continued struggles. He snapped the bat off his knee against the Yankees that we saw in the Subway Series, if I'm not mistaken. Did again here. I mean, when you're doing that twice in a week or so span, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. Pete is not locked in right now. I love Alonso to death. This Mets offense would not be anywhere without him. However, when he is in the middle of your damn lineup and you have a lack of consistent hitting with runners in scoring position, he needs to be your guy. And the more he's not being this guy, the more that James McCann continues to be James McCann, Joely Rodriguez knocking lefties out. It's this continued cycle for a Mets team that's lucky to be in the spot that they are right now. I know the Rockies are beating the Braves 3-2. Who knows if they're going to win or that's even lasting. You guys let me know in the chat. I do see a don't know. I'll get to that soon, guys. Thank you so much for that. But a frustrating loss once more for a Mets team that had this in their grasp. And that's not an easy thing to say against the 89 win Dodgers, now 90 on the season. This Dodgers team was what, 21-5 entering tonight's game in the month of August? And you can't win by 1 run? Against Heath Henry, against even Andrew Heaney, and against Jake Reed? That's why I'm pissed. This Dodgers team is no slouch. That's not the issue. It's the fact that they were sitting back a bit and they didn't take advantage. That is why I'm pissed. Because who knows what's going to happen even with Jake on the bump tomorrow. I expect greatness from Jake, but this is still the kick-ass Dodgers for a reason, guys. I digress. We get to the 9th inning. This is what we discussed when I first came in the show. Eduardo Escobar with a base knock, his 2nd in the game. You got a leadoff runner on. Daniel Vogelbach, the rain is starting to drop down harder. He's on a favorable count. Instead of taking the walk, he swings at a pitch, goes in the dirt, and it's a double play. Then you're down to Brandon Nimmo, who grounds out to end the game. Frustrating. Very, very frustrating, I gotta say. And I'm not trying to act like the sky's falling or anything, because it's the farthest thing from the truth right now. But there's nothing that pisses me off more as a fan. When you lose games you surely had right there for you, especially when it's against a team that you will truly be lucky if you win a series against. And this is not to deny the greatness that is the Mets this year, but it's to further reaffirm the greatness that is the LA Dodgers and why they have been in the best in baseball. We'll see what Game 2 brings, Anderson versus Jake. We'll see what Game 3 brings with Chris Bassett, who's been so rock solid for a month and a half now against Clayton Kershaw. But yeah, to say I'm annoyed right now, I mean, my birthday aside, I mean, I'm I'm very aggravated, if you couldn't tell right now. So, guys, I'm going to get your donations, comments, and concerns. But before I do, let's wrap things up here with the Warriors top 5. We'll announce, I mean, you see, this was from a couple days ago over the weekend. Sanchez was DFA to activate Escobar. Pitcher Gray was option for Pearson. Mets did awesome by retiring Willie Mays' 24 at Old Timers Day. It was a huge success. Love that. But again, I discussed that more that we saw in our previous episode of Bleav in Queens that came out yesterday with special guests, former Met and Met villain. I mean, during his time with the Nationals, and Daniel Murphy, who had some laughs talking about being on both sides of the spectrum and Mets fandom and, of course, with the Nationals. But let's talk about Warriors top 5. You see here on the screen, Marte's my number 1 star. When Marte goes 2 for 4 with a home run, an RBI, and a run scored, Starling Marte on the year, 293, 817 OPS. Marte with a couple off days truly benefit him. He's been nice with the home runs lately. You love to see that. I love Starling Marte. He's been a blessing in this Mets team. We get to the number 2 star, the man who's had like north of a 300 WRC plus over the past 14 days, 2 weeks. Mark Canha 1 for 4, continues the extra base hits that he has been a god for. And without Mark Canha, where is this Mets team over these past couple weeks, right? Because they surely aren't winning as many games as they are, or staying in ball games as much as they are. Mark Canha with a home run, an RBI, a run scored. And guys, after Mark Canha's home run, listen to this stat. Mark Canha has had 6 game-tying or go-ahead hits in the Mets' last 12 games since August 18th. Prior to that, he had only 7 total in the Mets' first 118 games of the year. So Mark Canha, to say I appreciate you is the biggest understatement in the world. You've been phenomenal. You were one of the few factors that have been in the positive manner for this Mets team offensively. Again, one of the few from a consistent standpoint. We get to my 3rd star, a guy that you can even argue higher. Thank you guys again for the birthday wishes. Love you all to death. Really do appreciate that. Michael Givens, 2 innings pitched, 0 hits, 0 earned runs, 1 walk. Michael Givens, who drove me nuts, who I was screaming about, was not happy with in the Rockies series, made up for it and then some. And unfortunately, a Mets lost tonight, which again, when you waste an outing where Michael Givens, who's been anything but good for the Mets consistently when you acquired him at the trade deadline, has his best outing as a Met, going 2 scoreless, not even giving up a damn hit to this Dodgers team facing all their big hitters. That's even more frustrating. Just wasted potential there when you have Michael Givens on his A game, looking the most relaxed he's looked so far in a Mets uniform. Shout out to you, Michael Givens. You're an absolute stud tonight. I will give you all the credit in the world. If you're on my Mets team, I want you to succeed. If I'm ragging you, it's because you're on my team and I want you to succeed and you're not stepping up. Michael Givens, you deserve plenty of credit tonight. It sucks. It's going to probably be swept under the rug because the Mets could not leg out the victory to come back in the end. My number 4 star is Eduardo Escobar, who, of course, got his 2nd hit in the night to try to start a rally that fell short, as we previously discussed. And Brandon Nimmo, my number 5 star. Didn't love Nimmo today, but again, if it wasn't for him, the Mets don't even have 3 runs today. 2 for 5 with that big run scored all the way from first base because he had his head down and listened to Joey Cora and got to home in time before Mookie Betts could get the throw on the cutoff. That is your Warriors top 5, guys. Frustrating. Just a frustrating game. Frustrating. But we're, guys, enough of me talking about the same stuff over again. I know I will, but I am curious what we got in the comments right now. So let's do that. Let's get your donations, all your stuff. Again, continue smashing that like and subscribe on. Really does mean a lot to me, folks. Guys, we'll be live for, upwards like 45 minutes, to an hour, probably more in the 45 mark tonight, just because, again, after a loss, I don't have as much interest, especially on my birthday night, to be wanting to rant about a Mets loss. I was tight for an hour plus. But let's get into your comments now. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Continue smashing those buttons. People on replay, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What is your biggest takeaway from a Mets team that has continued to have the same struggles that they've had for the larger portion of August now? Easily upwards of 3 weeks now that this Mets team offensively has been up and down, and lately more down than up. The Rockies series was the most underwhelming series win that you could find for this club. And if the Mets do not get their act together sooner than later and take advantage of opportunities given to you, they are not going to be in a comfortable spot when they should be, with such a lesser schedule here in the final month of September, only facing 2 teams in September with a winning record in the Brewers and the Braves. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Your biggest takeaway from tonight's game for people on replay. People in live show, let's go to those comments now. People on replay. This is where we're cutting things off. And good. The Braves lost. At least I can go to sleep knowing that there's nothing changing in the NL East standing-wise.